I made you. Oh, hello.
Hey,
We are live.
We are live.
We are indeed.
Are we live?
We are live. Very much so.
Very much so.
Wow, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
I hope
Happy
everybody had a
Thursday.
great week.
Free Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Juanita made it in just in time. She usually says that for us.
Hi, Q.
Anyway,
Hi, everybody.
hi, Q.
Hello.
I got off work. I got off work at 7, ate something and rushed out back over.
You.
Well, we're glad you made it. So we're happy that everyone joined us tonight, and we have some guests in our virtual living room this evening.
Yes.
Some male guests, which we're super excited about. One is returning, and we have 2 new guests, so we'll introduce them. But before we do that, our topic is, can men and women be platonic friends? And I just have to start this evening saying that one of my dear friends that's on here tonight, Hallie, he let me know today that another dear friend of ours passed away, another male dear friend of mine, who I had been in constant contact with over the pandemic and recently had not heard from, so didn't realize that there was a problem. So, but I checked our text message thread, and the last thing that we shared, he and I and another friend from college are on a group text, and the last thing we all said to each other was that we love each other. So I want everybody on here tonight to know that I love you, because you just never know when the last time that you will be in contact with someone is. So just know that I love you all. Everybody on this panel, I love
You too.
and I'm praying for his family and all of our friends. It's a huge loss. I'm still in shock. It hasn't hit me yet. It's hard to believe, but I just, it just was another reminder of how short life is and how we have to be there for each other and just check in on people. Make sure you check in on people too, and let them know how you feel while they're here. So we're going to have a good night tonight, though. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to it. We don't let men in our virtual living room often, so
Glad to have you.
This is my second time.
Yeah, Dirk is a repeater.
You're VIP.
Dirk is the VIP.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about VIP, but
We tested the waters with Dirk a few weeks ago, so it worked out pretty well. So we said we would open it up a little bit. So anyway, I'm Cara Dunstan. I'm going to quickly introduce our guests. We've got Hallie Williams, who I've known since college. And we've got Andre Beckles, who I've known since graduate school, and Dirk Joseph, who I've also known since graduate school. So looking forward to hearing what these men have to say. But before that, we'll let our other good girlfriends introduce themselves, starting with Marcy.
Hey, Marcia Penn. Marcy, good to see everybody. Good to meet some new folks on the chat tonight.
Alicia Marner. Good evening. Hi, good girlfriend.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
And welcome to the male guest tonight.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Happy Friday Eve. I am Juanita, AKA Q. I'm loving to see the brown men in here with us, and welcome.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm Regina, and I am glad to have a merged conversation tonight, men and women coming together to have a discussion, a good girlfriends discussion with our good guy friends.
So hi, everyone. I'm Jeanette, and I want to welcome our guests. We are glad for this integrated conversation between the males and the females. It should be most interesting. And I also want to welcome any new guests to our virtual living room, say hello and welcome back to our old guests. And just to give my normal disclaimer, we are not experts. Tonight we come together just kicking it in our virtual living room with our good girlfriends and our good guy friends, and sharing information as friends do, platonic friends share information with each other and exchange ideas. So this should be a wonderful, insightful conversation. And I'm ready to jump into our topic.
Awesome. So, I mean, clearly, because at least 3 of the multiple men that I invited showed up tonight and are my dear, dear platonic friends, I clearly believe in that men and women can be platonic friends. Now, how we get to that point might be more of a discussion that we can have, but I definitely know that you can have platonic friends. Well, I have platonic male friendships at least. So, who wants to start and jump in with how they feel about this subject? Okay, somebody.
I want Andre. Andre, come on, jump in, sir. Jump in, sir.
Well, I guess that means that you were on the call when Kara called me a few nights ago and I would not give an answer.
That was Jeanette. Jeanette was on the call.
You me.
That was
Okay.
Jeanette.
I would say that you can be platonic friends. And that's something that builds over a period of time. One can, I always like to say there's instant attractions of different kinds when you first encounter someone of the opposite sex. So I believe, my opinion is that you can be attracted to someone's intellect. You, at the same point in time as you're attracted to that person's intellect, you are also attracted to their physical being. And it can all happen just like that. Many times it's vice versa. As a kid, my sister always told me that, you can't chase after every woman that you meet. And I looked at her and I said, really? Yeah, she says, you can't have everything. And that was as maybe like a 14, 15-year-old, as she was teaching me lessons. And as I got a little bit older, we had the conversation. She's, and strangely enough, she brought it up at the rooftop party. She says, you've been away for a while. I was in California, not here in New Jersey. She says, how's it been dating out there? There's women, there's so many women, because she lived in California at one point in time. I says, yeah, that's true. It's roughly about 20 or 30 to 1. I said, I'm living the dream. She says, but you remember our conversation we had as a kid? I told you that you couldn't have everything. And I says, you know what? And I learned that the hard way. I learned that the hard way. I believe that as you mature, or I would say as I matured, I started looking and kind of pumping my brakes to really find out a lot more. It wasn't as much about the physical, it was about, everything thereafter. One can always have a sexual relationship and that be it. But then there's always, when you wake up, what do you say after that? Where does it go from there? Or are you just never going to meet someone ever again? So my thing is, I always try to find, the common bonds. And common bonds may mean that you may continue to grow as just friends, because, for me, there's not a list, but there's just things that I'm interested in. And I mean, there's sometimes that opposites attract, but then there are other times that they may not. And that's how you sometimes just remain as platonic friends, or the relationship will grow over the years. I've had that where I've ended up dating someone, but then I've also, I have, as my partner will tell you, she says, you have so many women friends and you've dated so many women. She says, she's always implying something there, but I said, but many of the women friends that I have are just friends. We just enjoy doing things together. As an example, I have a friend who, her father one day in California says, she has a boyfriend. Why are you here helping her move? I says, well, free food. free, free food. I was in college, free food. So I'm here. Plus, she's a good friend. So I definitely believe it. In my case, as I got older, I matured, and it was not always the physical that really attracted me to someone. It was more of their intellect. And then if there was nothing else there, or if it just, there's also the timing. The timing is something. If you already have a partner, then they're going to just be friends. They're just going to be friends, and that's it. I think I've said enough for the moment.
So I do have a question for you though. When you first started answering the question or talking about this subject, you said that initially as a younger man, it started out as like was always a little sizzle, like a physical attraction. Yes?
That many times would have been the first thing that I saw.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as you matured, it, then you started to look into other things.
Through experiences. Yeah.
Mhm.
Through experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for younger men, one could infer, and I'm not saying, but that a younger man, is a little tougher for younger men, a little tougher for them to have these platonic friendships. Yes, no, maybe so.
If I'm doing a small sample size of friends, I would say, yeah.
Okay.
As one friend's mother said, we were all late bloomers.
Mm-hmm.
So I come at, I'm a little come from a different perspective. I've been married 18 years. So as far as like platonic friends, is Car and I, like I said, we've been buddies since undergrad. And so it is funny the way he worded it is that I guess you can have friends wind up being platonic from different perspectives. Early on because of just straight buddies. You guys gel, good chemistry between you. And then on other angles, because like you said, guys being guys, you shoot your shot and you get put in the friend zone. So in that perspective, they don't have a choice to be but platonic, or in the other perspective, a relationship, you're in a relationship and it doesn't work for whatever reason, and then you're like, hey, it's best that we go our separate ways. Now that perspective, you can have a platonic relationship, but in all, and I know I put this in, I put this disclaimer out there because Car and I was talking about it. The onus is more on the women than the men, because guys are going to be guys. You know what I mean? And so to maintain, and bear with me on this, to maintain that platonic relationship, sometimes guys will test it. It tests the friendship. And so I do put it
I
Um,
agree.
With that.
more so the men
I agree.
to maintain that, because guys got different, I mean, the guys will share it. You rank your friends on different levels too. You know what I mean? Especially, in that space. So that's my full disclosure.
And I totally
I saw a couple of head nods.
agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. But I also think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to, Hallie, you said you were married.
yeah, yep.
And even when we have those platonic friendships, I think sometimes when you're married, that can be a little difficult too, especially when you have a spouse and you form these relationships, or you've had relationships, and you have this situation where, oh, that's my girl or that's my boy, but your spouse doesn't quite understand the dynamic, or they don't know that person as intimately as you know that person.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be frank, sometimes, you might look at a person and you look at the physical and you're like, I don't know if I want that person around my man. Yeah. Or I don't know if I want that dude around, my wife. And I think that's natural. I think it's authentic and an authentic feeling. Yeah. And I think you know, sometimes we have to consider those people in our lives and where they fit, because you can have a platonic friend, but the relationship may not be the same.
Yeah, 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 and totally. Now, in that relation, and so speaking from a married perspective, home is priority. So you always have to make sure your wife feels comfortable. I mean, first and foremost. So if she's telling you that she's feeling vibes from a person that you're interacting with, it's on me to check the relationship and the friendship, because you got to keep home happy. You know what I mean? And so that's a totally different perspective. You know what I mean? Like, you have to keep home happy. So there might be relationships where you can no longer nurture. You might have to step away from because of that. But as a married person, you and your spouse, you guys need to be able to communicate. And as a man, I need to make sure that she's comfortable with my actions, that I won't act inappropriately around people too. So that's where you have to nurture those relationships. You know, those two types of relationships on both sides, in home relationship and with your friends, or your people you're
I appreciate that, Holly. I think you raised some good points in terms of nurturing the relationship, understanding what the priority is, and I think having communication, because it also may depend on when that person came into your life. You know, if you've, like, you know, you said maybe you and Cara, you've been friends, you've been buddies, you've been kicking it since, you know, college, high school, and then your partner or your spouse comes into your life later on, you know, what's the relationships? And to Andre's point, a lot of times it has to also do with maturing, how you mature into that, into self, as well as, but I think the open communication is key. And I appreciate, again, how you're saying in terms of kind of being aware of, you know, where your partner is in this process, because they very much become a part of that process if you are either married or in a relationship with an existing partner.
Yeah. I also would say, when you're talking about having a partner, mate, then the biggest thing is also trust. You know, if you have friends that are of the opposite sex, the biggest thing is trust. So in my case, there are times that you know, you introduce your friends to your mate, and hopefully at that point they feel comfortable. If they don't, then that's, you know, another discussion. But I think the biggest thing is really just trust.
And you gotta know when to fall back too. You know what I mean? Because there are some relationships that you might have, and their significant other, their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, may feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You have to fall back, because that's their top priority. You know what I mean? Not to say that you're no longer friends. Your friendship just takes another perspective, another round. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I love that, Hallie, what you said, fall back, right? And because you are friends with that person, you know, if their mate is uncomfortable, sometimes what happens is somebody tries to continue to force the friendship, right? But if you're really truly a friend, you're gonna say, hey, I understand, and I'm gonna just, you know, and I'm gonna fall back, and, you know, whether that relationship continues on to a marriage or whatever. And, you know, sometimes that's the way it happened. But Dirk, it looked like you were ready to say something, so I'm gonna let you speak first before I say something.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with what Andre was saying about the trust factor, right? Because I've got a lot of female friends, and straight just friends. Cara will tell you, she knows me probably better than a lot of people do. And when I say I'm a friend, I'm a friend. Precursor to this conversation, me, Cara, and Jeanette, we had a little kind of powwow, if you will. And we talked about, you know, or I kind of mentioned from my perspective that it's a choice, right? You know, Andre kind of alluded to it, saying that, you know, you kind of have that attraction, right? You either have an attraction or you don't have an attraction, but it becomes a choice. It's like, do you want to maintain a friendship and have a relationship, or do you want to move on, right? And I think sometimes that's what creates the problem, is the fact that you know, kind of communication, what you said, Regina, you gotta communicate, right? Because if you really have an attraction to the person, then you need to let that person know how you feel, and you either accept it or you move on, right? So for me, you know, what you guys were all talking about, I feel miserably. Like Holly said, you have to know when to fall back. Well, for me, I'm the kind of person, what you see is what you get. If I tell you I'm a friend, I'm a friend. There's no hidden agenda. There's no ulterior motive. So for me, if I tell you that person is my friend, they are strictly my friend. I didn't know how to say, okay, to put my situation first to say, hey, all right, I can't talk to you anymore because the person I'm with has trust issues. So I can't talk to you. And that's kind of unfair to some degree. I know you got to put that person first because that person is your spouse or your significant other or whatever they may be. So you're supposed to put them first. But when you know in your heart that person's strictly just a friend and you got to give up that friendship because like in any relationship, no one's going to always have the total connection, right? One person might give you one aspect of what you need. Another person might give, so now you have to give up that friendship, right? Because you know that person is just a friend, but you have to give it up because that other person doesn't trust you. So you got to give it up. And that's a tough thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it's a tough thing. But again, back to my point, I think being a friend, whether you say platonic or whatever it may be, I feel it's more of a choice. I mean, just like cheating. Cheating is a choice. If you're going to cheat, you make that decision to go cheat. And no one can argue that point because no matter what you say, I'm going to do it or you're not going to do it. And no one in the world can argue me that point. That's a choice that you make. So you either do it or you don't do it. And I think back to blurring the lines of, okay, am I going to keep it platonic or if I'm going to, because how many times have you guys, we can do a poll. How many times have you guys heard the best relationships? I'm talking marriage, whatever, right? The foundation is built on friendship. How many times have we heard that? So then what are we saying? You can be a friend, but then my brothers were saying, you can graduate to something more, right? But it has to be mutual. And that's kind of where it starts getting sticky. I think that's what I was going to say.
So
I
Dirk,
also think, oh, go ahead, Juanita.
oh, it's Dirk said, I've had a similar situation where, I had to say, listen, no, this person can't be your friend. But I also think it depends whether the person who came first in the relationship, right? Like my husband, he's got a childhood friend that is just whatever, but somebody new came along and I was like, I don't like her. I don't want her around kind of thing. And that's a different story, but a childhood friend who I'm not going to tell him he can't be friends with somebody he was been friends with as a child, but we've met and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But I think you kind of have to balance that with what type of relationship you're having with that mate versus the friendship.
Right. So I just want to kind of follow up on what you said, Q, because you raised an interesting point. And that's kind of where I got in trouble a lot, right? Because I had friends. But what happens when it's began at a more romantic relationship, but then you realize that, okay, we are better off being friends than we are being intimate, right? So how do you transition there? And that's one of the, again, I mean, I got in trouble all the time because I knew what I was going to do. And rightfully so, my ex-spouse, what she would say made, I get it. I mean, I look back now and kind of reflect and I get her point. Not that I didn't get it back then, but I get it more now where, her position is like, okay, well, you were intimate with this person and now you're friends. I know you, right? Because she knew me and she would tell me all the time that of all the people in her life, she trusted me, right? And that's man, woman. So, but I understand her perspective in that it's not me she was necessarily concerned about. She was concerned about the other people and what they might do. Now, me, I'm thinking, okay, we're friends. So that person feels the same way that I feel. And that's why I'm saying I get her point now, because not everybody says how they really feel. A person might say, just to keep the relationship going, oh, I'm a, like Holly said, fall back. I'm a fall back, but they really have some other desire. And that's why I say you have to be honest and truthful in communicating. And, was it Regina said communication? Communication is absolutely critical. Don't bullshit, because if you bullshit, it's gonna create a lot of chaos.
But I also think in terms of married folk that it depends on, when you have friends, how you present them to your partner, right? So I think that has a lot to do with those friends that you keep and those friends that maybe you have to fall back from. But you have to be mindful in how you present people to your wife or your husband or your significant other. And we don't always do that the right way. And then to your point, Dirk, about being honest, sometimes folks aren't comfortable with being vulnerable, right? And so that's the other thing too, with each other. So, to the point about married folks, it's all in how you present, I believe, as a divorced woman. It's all about how you present your friends to your partner.
And I wanted to go back to Hallie's point a little bit. Because while you said men will shoot their shot, women will shoot their shot too.
Yeah.
They will shoot their shot also, right? Dirk said it. They'll say, okay, yes, we could be friends. And they know you're with somebody else and they still could, I mean, and
I feel like everything Holly said, well, actually everything everyone has said can go for women.
Either way.
Yeah, either way. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's speaking from a male
and
perspective, but every time he said something, I felt everything he said could either be the woman or the male in the relationship.
absolutely. And I also think, I do think it's different. Well, the perspective is when you're single and you are friends with a male that you have been in a relationship with, so there's, I guess there's different perspectives, how the relationship how the friendship came about, how long, and the nature of that. But if you have been in a relationship and you've decided to be friends, I think sometimes it is challenging to continue that friendship in that way, as a friendship. Because if people are not honest, as you said, Dirk, if the person says, okay, you agree to not not be in an intimate relationship, but you agree to be friends, and everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm fine with it. But really you should say, I'm really not fine with it. I really do still like you. And so let's just part our ways, and maybe we can come back later and be friends, but we can't be friends right now at this point because that's where my feelings still are.
Before we go any further, I wanted to introduce another one of our special guests. And we also have our good girlfriends, Cece, joining us tonight, but we have another very dear male friend of mine, Charles Odom, has joined us. And I don't know how long he's gonna last because he just got off of a flight from LA and he's exhausted. But I just wanted to introduce Charles. Charles and I have known each other since like 1998. We met at Sinbad Music Festival in Aruba back in the 90s. And he's a really dear friend of mine. We spent a lot of time together because he would scoop me up on Monday mornings. We both were working in New York, but we would come home every weekend. So we rode back and forth to New York every week for years. So we have grown to be the best of friends over the years. And I wanted to give him a chance to share his thoughts around the topic of, can men and women be platonic friends? Hi, Charles. You're on mute.
Thank you, Cara. Hello to everyone.
Hello.
Glad to be here, definitely. Definitely enjoyed the conversations, the different points of views. And I think I can agree with a lot of those. And I think in addition to for myself, some of my platonic friends, female friends, a lot of it is grounded spiritually too. You know what I mean? So there's a spiritual connection there and accountability between us. So, I'm only wanting the best for that person. So, you know, so I don't allow myself to cross that line. You know what I mean? Not saying you're not human, but spiritually, that's what I mean, that's where it's based on for me and our experiences together, but that's where it is for me. I mean, I look to Kara for a lot of just, spiritual balance. You know what I mean? Like there's things I'm dealing with, or may deal with, something like that. She's a person I rely on, have depended on for many years. And, and just knowing her husband, Andre, he's a really cool guy, and I respect, him and how he, has honored our relationship as a friend, because she truly is that. And there are other friends that I have like that are platonic too, that spiritually I contact these people for those reasons where the life is difficult. I don't see the side of, that there's this physical attraction. That's just the way that my life has been with a lot of my platonic female friends. And I could say too, as the brother said earlier, Andre, I think you realize that as you get older as well. You know what I mean? If when you're younger, as a male, there's, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not easy having a platonic friend, female friend, but I think as you get older and also if the basis of who you are is your spirituality, I think you look at things differently. And that's my perspective.
Cool. I was going to say one thing because it just kind of hit me. And it's not a cheap plug for my podcast in any way, shape, or form, but I was doing one, and it was all based on relationships, how people met, how they got married, and then at the end, one of my the question that I always asked everybody was, how did love change? When I say change, not for the negative, how did it grow? But one of the things that I really found interesting, and I have for some years, had a lot to do with some of my friends that are either from Africa, that are from Southeast Asia, and they're either Muslim or they're Hindu, and they have arranged marriages. So you never have that time to be friends, so to speak. Your families bring you together. So you never have a friend that is a female friend. And in many countries, that I've been to, if you're not a relative, you're not walking down the street with just some random person. So that was one thing. And I guess, as I mentioned, I talked about in the podcast, someone had asked me, and this just has to do with relationships. They had asked me, how many of your friends are married? How many of you are divorced? And we were just using some stats because here in the United States, the Western way, as some of my friends will say, that they said, well, there's divorce rates of 50-60%. And then arranged marriages, it's like 4, 5, 6%. And I said, yeah, I went through my telephone book or my cell phone for that fact. And it was 50%. And that's just because it's arranged marriages. But then, if I look over to the point of having someone of the opposite sex that is your friend, I think that is very cool in the sense that you're able to build that friendship, as some of you have said, and it could just be friends. Later on, is there, if it ever develops into something, it develops because you have found all of those innate qualities on both sides that you both liked about each other. And if you happen to be single, you may take it further and date. Or in some cases, I have some friends that just got married. They knew each other for 10, 15 years and they were just friends, and then they were both single, and they looked at, you know, what they really liked in a mate, and they had it right in front of them.
Yeah.
So I think being a friend with the opposite sex can definitely be a plus. It definitely can be a plus. So you can have those friendships. If you had asked me, kind of like when Kara called me and I was in several zones, and you asked that question, I was like, oh, really? If you had caught me a few years ago, yes, I'm sure I would have said it makes no sense at all. But I definitely believe that you can find a lot of good qualities in having friends of the opposite sex, or if indeed you're a same-sex person, and it can work one way or another. I mean, friends are to be cherished. I like to say, when you talk about friendships, for me, it's kind of like that. There's that term, whether it's blood in, blood out. If you're a friend, you're a friend for life, and I'm going to really do just about anything for you, as long as it's reciprocated. So in that sense, I treasure friendships, and I don't have 1,000,001 friends, but I have all the friends that I do have. I trust them. If they say something, I'm going to believe them.
Mhm. Real quick, since you mentioned your podcast and we wanted to share that a little later, tell everyone I enjoy your podcast, and I share it with a lot of my family and friends, and I totally enjoyed that episode. I know exactly what episode you're talking about with the couples, and it was really interesting later to see their pictures, trying to put the faces together with the stories. But share a little bit about your podcast so we can share that on our Facebook Live real quick. What's the name of it?
The podcast is called The Justifiable Noise Project, and it's evolved over time, but basically I deal with a lot of issues that regular media may not touch on as frequently, or people don't talk about as frequently as I believe they should. So it really delves a lot around people of color. So if you're of African descent, if you're of Indian descent, if you're of Latinx, I believe that the media has never done or it never does enough to really delve into the topics that I think that many people want to hear. So I can have various business owners on. I can talk about relationships. It really just depends on. I have like a list of maybe 100. I went into, maybe it was about 2 years ago, I went into a pub because I started off with 2 other friends to start it off. And I came up with like 150 topics, and I have not gone through them all. I've done now maybe about 40, 44, 45 podcasts. I collaborate with friends of the opposite sex sometimes. And I always like to get input. The biggest thing is really just topics that are important to people of color that are not exposed or talked about. The promoting of, as you said, of small businesses or large businesses. I still get off on the fact that I one day just sent a tweet to the CEO of a sportswear shoe manufacturer based out of Kenya, and the CEO it's the first African made shoe and based sneaker out of Kenya and based out of Kenya. And I have a love for Kenya. And then I just sent her a message, and she was like, yeah, because if it means that your podcast will grow and my business will grow, why wouldn't I do it?
That's awesome.
And yeah.
Is it on Spotify, or how can they find it?
It can be found under the Justifiable Noise, and that's Noise with a Z podcast, project podcast, and it can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, anywhere where you listen to good podcasts, I like to say.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Not that-
I'm gonna go back real quick and say that at least for Lisa, Cece, Q, who was on here, and me, we had a unique experience in high school where we went to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute that we talk about so often. And it was formerly an all-male school. So just a few years before we arrived, they started letting women attend. And so we were in school with approximately, what, 75% men, 25% women, if that. So it's, for me at least, been very natural to have a lot of male friends because that's who we were in school with all day, and that's who, you know, we built relationships with through our high school years. So I know that was a unique experience in my case, and it's always made me comfortable having platonic male friends because of that, and never looking at it any more than friends whom I love dearly in that form or fashion. So, but I will say that I agree with Hallie because some of those friendships that I've had have been since high school. I've had cases where I knew I had to step back, you know, when they were married. And in some cases, I have made wonderful friends with their wives, and you know, we've become one big happy family. In most of the cases, that's really what happened. I mean, Jeanette and I talk about that from college. That's how Jeanette and I became so close. I was friends with her husband, and he says that she got me in the divorce. So, you know, we've been best friends ever since. But, you know, but I do know I've always been very respectful of what Hallie said of, you know, how comfortable will the wife be with my presence, or the significant other will be with my presence. And I'm open to whatever kind of relationship that they want to have or not. And I always make that very clear to them. I make it clear to them that, you know, I understand, I respect marriage, I respect relationships, and I'm just here to support the whole family. Whatever way you want, whether I'm around or not, I will continue to pray for you. And that's how we handle that. And so for me, it's been successful. I've made some wonderful girlfriends, sister friends for life that way, and truly do love them just as much as I love the husband. So, and the husbands sometimes claim I love them more, but that I love the whole family. But I understand what Hallie said is true. You have to make sure that the spouse is comfortable. Same in my own relationship. My husband and I, you know, he knows my male friends. If there's someone that he's not comfortable with, if they don't know to step back, I make sure that they step back, or I make sure it's a different relationship, because he needs to be comfortable with that. And same thing in his case. He's gotten to know some of my male friends, and now they're some of his closest friends. And I tell him he's a friend stealer, because I'm like, they were my friends, but okay. But anyway, but that's how you have to handle it. There has to be a level of respect. And he, you know, we both trust each other in that form or fashion. When we say it's a friend, we know it's a friend, unless we see otherwise. And then we bring it back up and we discuss it again. And there's been times where I've told him, and he knows how I am. I mean, I love he has female friends and I love them. And, you know, but if there is one who I'm not comfortable with, I'll let him know. I'll say, I'm not comfortable with that relationship. And so we deal with it that way. And I think that that's been a healthy way for us to at least deal with platonic friends in our lives at this point. So
I think it all comes in maturity too. See, I was married young. So at a young age, that wasn't happening in my relationship. So even though I had male friends, like you said, I always had male friends, Carl, from elementary school. I just wasn't the girly girlfriends. I don't know. I had a couple of girlfriends, but not like I had male friends. And then high school, like you said, we were outnumbered in high school, way outnumbered. But my husband wasn't, I guess, at that level. So if I say that's my male friend, and I guess in my maturity wasn't enough to say, okay, I need to step back, because I'm a little stubborn. I'm like, well, we've been friends forever. Why did I stop being friends with him? He's my friend. Like, get over it. And, you know, that's the attitude I kind of took. But being a lot mature now, I wouldn't. I definitely, hindsight is 50-50. I wouldn't approach it like that now at 50 as I approach it at 20. but I think a level of maturity comes with it too. So you have to realize that when it's time to step back and when your spouse is uncomfortable, how to react. Like, because I know I wouldn't have back then. I'm like, you need to get over it. Okay, we just friends.
Mhm. Yeah.
And as shared earlier, different friends play different roles in your life too. You know what I mean? Like some people are like your sounding boy you go to, or some people you go to for professional advice. You know what I mean? Or some people when it's a hot topic, you know, and you want to talk to or joke about. You know what I mean? So you have different people that play different roles in your life too. You know what I mean? You nurture those relationships.
Yep.
That's true.
That's
I have
true.
one particular male friend. His main reason for calling me all the time is, Q, am I wrong? She said, well, like, give me your sister's perspective. What I'm supposed to do? And I'm like, nope. Yes, you're wrong. So yeah, different
I had
relationships.
to go back home and say, well, Q said that you.
And I had to say that earlier. I was like, don't say I said it.
Right.
I heard, you know, I got another perspective.
I thought about it. Okay.
But I think the Q, that's a very good point, because sometimes you do need, you know, especially, I mean, I have an older brother, but sometimes you need a male perspective that you don't have the perspective. You don't have that perspective. You can't see that perspective a lot of times. And when you hear that perspective from someone that you know and trust, it gives you, not to go back and say, well, you know, Hallie said I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't answer you like this, but it does give you a perspective too. And I think that that is a maturity level as well, because in our younger days, we would go back and say, well, that's not what so-and-so said. But, you know, as we get older, we're like, okay, let me go and check with another male friend and see what his perspective is, because maybe I'm not seeing it that way.
And it's maturity and experience too. You know what I mean? Because
yes,
in Carter, we always joke about like young people now. You know, whereas like we're men, we taught to date. You know what I mean? Like we're taught, we nurtured to date. Whereas women, they're not taught to date. You know what I mean? Like. So now the new generation, we tell the young women now to date more, but in the past that wasn't the behavior, you know, that women did. If you did, they were stereotyped. You know, we tell. Did I get echo? You guys got echo from me?
It's gone.
Can you hear me clear?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so and those where you get those experiences, how, you know, in a relationship, in dating, you know what I mean? And so that's why it's always good to have that another
Perspective. Yeah.
We tell the young women.
Andre's listening to the live. Yeah, it'll be 35 years since we graduated high school. You know, all those friends are brothers. That's the first thing I say. I was like, that's my big brother, my brother. So.
Yeah, they're like family at this point. That's the thing. Once you become, you know, friends like that, you become family after years.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all about relationships. You never want to lose that. As I said, and you were talking about friendships at the start. You try and cherish those. We've gone through, or we're still going through COVID, and I'm sure everybody has been touched, whether it be family or friends. And you know, you definitely cherish your friends, whether, you know, it's the same sex or opposite sex. You know, I have one friend that's out in California, and you know, she's like my right-hand partner in crime. And I could tell you that my partner, she couldn't understand that at first. It was like, yeah, you know, it's like my girl. We've been friends for ages. But eventually, once she met her, then she knew.
She became comfortable with it. It's all about making the other person comfortable with the situation too. I mean, and like Jeanette started this off, it's how you present them, how people are presented.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, everybody's silent now. This was a
Well, I was expecting more questions. You guys are quiet, so it's just cool.
one of those topics that makes you think.
Yeah.
I think Dirk was the only one that kind of told us the bad side of it. I know some of you other gentlemen have had some experiences where didn't quite go right and you could have handled it differently maybe, or the other person didn't handle it.
Yes.
Any that you could care to share.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as everybody was speaking, and well, it still goes back to what I was saying about trust. I didn't, in that case of that relationship at that time, I had no idea what it was that my partner at the time, why she was so, I guess the best word would be jealous about my friend. But it was one night she just broke down, and she said that it had a lot to do with previous relationships, and she had never talked about that. But all of a sudden one night the tears just came out, and I'm like, where did this come from? And then at the end she said, that's why, and really, it really delves in this topic of men and women, being able to be friends. She couldn't see that. She couldn't. And it was weird. I remember when I went back and I then told my friend about it. She says, really? She says, maybe I could have done something different. I says, no, there's nothing that you could have done. It had a lot to do with her past relationships. You couldn't have done anything any different, the times that you have met her.
So she might have had some trust issues before she even got involved with you.
And I had never seen them until that moment.
You had never brought another woman around.
No, it didn't. It was just something about Wendy. Just something about Wendy.
I'm a believer that women do know, though.
She sent something.
Yeah, women. I believe in that women's intuition, though. So she knew something that even Wendy wasn't admitting, probably. But
you know what? You said something, Andre, too. You said that she didn't believe that men and women could be friends, and perhaps her experiences, right? She had never really had a male friend, so that might have been why she felt that way too. So when you have a significant other, and we all know this, they bring their own stuff to the.
We all bring our own stuff.
Which might lead to sometimes I agree, women's intuition is strong, right? As they say, game recognizes game. Men have that, women have that. But there are some cases where it is based on, it may not be so much that there's a trust thing, but it might just be based on their experiences. And a man's never had just a female friend, or a woman's never had just a male friend. So they don't understand, they lack understanding. Mm-hmm. And it comes across as them not being trusting, where it's just a lack of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we all deal with different levels of insecurity. You know what I mean? So like, how can you be that friend with someone that's attractive? You know what I mean? So we all deal with different levels too. So it's your job to make them comfortable. You know what I mean? And not and accept their response. Like don't brush it off or force you feel on them. You have to accept it.
Right. And I think it comes back to your experiences and maturity, because when you're younger, or even as you grow, how do you know to have these conversations? You haven't had the experiences. And then it comes up, Kari, you all were, you started with some male friends very young, and it's just grown over time. And that to me is really a blessing to have. I'm also about friendships and cherishing friendships, both male and female friends who have been, in our life, either from high school or from college. And I have some friends, who I'm still very much connected with. I've had some friends that I've dated, and it didn't work out that way. And we became good friends, and we're still good friends today, because there was something about each other that we really like, and that there was some things that we were attracted to. There were some intellectual things, and some of the things that attracted us that we thought that didn't work, but we were able to get past those. But to me, it really depends on the people, you know, and how much you cherish the friendship, how much you trust one another, and having your partners understand it. But how do you learn to have those conversations if you've never had them before, if you haven't experienced them? It's back to that communication. Everybody doesn't know how to, you know, how do we just, you know, how do I sit and talk to you? Especially if you guys have friends that you guys have been connected for a very long time. You know, I have friends high school and then from college that I've been connected to. And so everybody doesn't get that, you know, and those things to me are absolutely special. And Dirk, like, you know, you said, and then CC, you both said, you know, hey, these are my friends. They really are my friends. And they've been in my life a very long time. And that's a special thing. So, you know, again, the communication is really key in terms of having, you know, your partners understand that, providing they are absolutely your friends.
And then there's that.
And then there's that. And then there's that game. Okay.
So I think too, though, like you also, and maybe this speaks to maturity, but in a relationship, and I'm gonna go back to Andre, what he said in the beginning about there may be like, you know, male, female, there's energy, there's chemistry, whatever. And you might have a good friend and you find, oh, there's a little spark there. You have to be mature enough to make a decision. I am not going to jeopardize this friendship. I'm not going to cross this line. I value her too much to do this, you know, to jeopardize this special thing we have. I value him too much. So it's also that too, making a conscious choice to manage a platonic relationship. That's true, you know, so that's the other thing.
I agree with that, Jeanette. And I think to go back to what Hallie said about, you know, we have these platonic friends that serve different purposes.
Yeah.
And I think Charles talked about it too. You know, Charles, you said you go to certain people, you know, it's a spiritual thing. You go to certain people, say for certain types of advice, or when you're going through certain things, you know, you have different friends that you reach out to. And I think sometimes when we're in relationships, you know, we're in relationships and people, you know, our significant others don't understand, well, why is it that you have to reach out to someone else? How come I'm not all encompassing? How come you can't just come to me and, you know, I'm that person who is pretty much everything. And so I think that takes a lot of understanding too. So
yeah, that's the question, especially in marriages. You know what I'm saying? It's because ideally you think the person's supposed to be everything that you need. You know what I mean? But the reality is no one could be everything. You know what I mean? We're just not equipped to be everything, to address all needs. You know what I mean? And so that's really a downfall. I mean, Andre, I'm quite sure you had that on your podcast. That's really the downfall for relationships, especially after this pandemic. It's gonna be, you know, it's been a challenge of a lot of relationships. You know what I mean? But where's that balance? That's a constant challenge of relationships. Where does that pendulum fall, and how vulnerable are you willing to be when you can't meet those needs? Because that's the reality. You be instances when you can't meet those needs, and how comfortable are you with them addressing that need, whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Whether it's spiritual or, you know, professional or whatever, or even emotional. But those guardrails got to be defined. you don't go into that.
So this is a slippery slope that we're going down. Because like, so you mentioned emotional. So if you're married and with your husband, listen, you can have, I believe, an emotional affair. I mean, I think the emotional support you get from your spouse.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation.
When he said emotional, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, that's a slippery slope.
You should be able to have platonic friends for other things, but when it comes to emotional, that's when me as a wife or whatever, I think that might be a bit.
It's a slippery slope. I don't know.
That's why I said guardrails.
Yeah, you need some.
I agree right there.
Yeah, that's you know.
Right. So
But,
how,
but also, and let me take some. There are some men who we've never been nurtured in that space, so we don't know how to show vulnerability and show our emotional side. I mean, it's how some of us we just been hardened in that way. So
Yeah.
but go ahead, someone else about to talk.
Go ahead, Dirk.
I was just gonna say that what Hallie said about, it's kind of like use the analogy of you have the kitty lanes at the bowling alley, right? You have those, you have the, and you know what Jeanette said, that's what I did. Um, for whatever reason, but it wasn't based on a longtime friend. That was a totally different situation. That's why I go back and I say you make a decision. And I made my decision to do what I did because, it doesn't excuse it, but I wasn't getting that emotional need fulfilled, at least in my opinion. Now, someone might analyze it and say, well, she was doing this, that, and the other, so you should have been okay. But for me, it wasn't. So I get what Cara is saying about, and Jeanette, about emotional connections, because that is a very slippery slope. And even though I didn't want to go down that path and I struggled, I was like, dude, don't go there. I made that choice to allow myself to go there. And unfortunately, that's kind of what was the demise of my relationship. But yeah, you got to be careful in understanding and defining what you're getting from each friend. And that's why I say you have to be honest. You can't say, I just want this, but you really want something else, because that's when the slope becomes really slippery. That's what Jeanette's talking about. It's like, okay, well, you weren't honest with me. You said you want to be a friend, but now you throw this curve and you want something else. And I can't do that. I'm not just, it's not just that I'm not supposed to, I just can't do it. I mean, for me, when I was in at the job I'm with with the firm I'm with right now, I actually had to go to HR on someone because I felt totally uncomfortable. I'm trying to be a friend, and every day it's like, oh, I'm here more, and kiss me on my cheek, and I'm like, so Latin people can be amorous, if you will, and they're very affectionate. Not amorous, it's not the right word, but affectionate, even in friendship. And I was uncomfortable, and I told my boss, and he was like, "Yeah, you need to tell HR." I didn't want to, because I felt like a rat. I felt like, damn, I don't want to get this person in trouble. I just didn't want. It's like, man, I got enough damn problems trying to, keep those rails going, man. And you to now add this, and because the person was attractive. Brothers like that curve, and she had curves and everything else. And, I was like, man, what are you doing? Because I'm trying to be straight and narrow, and you trying to take me beyond the boundaries. So yeah, that's a slippery slope. Yeah.
Good for you for maturing.
But see, okay, so I don't mean, okay, so I gotta jump back in, because we were talking about maturity, right? And I mean, I've always been that way, though. I mean, I know everyone's different. Everyone's different, and people mature at different rates, right? Everyone's gonna some mature sooner and some mature later on. Like, I think Andre was one that said some realized later on. But for me, I've always been that way. I've never really, yeah, I wasn't trying to be out there trying to, it's like I had a lot of, so I got out the Army, I was 21, and I helped to coach the football team for my alma mater back in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And there were a lot of, when I came out, I had a BMW, bought one in Germany, had money in my pocket because I saved my money. I didn't spend it. I sent everything to my parents. So I was kind of like a baller, you can say, in a matter of speaking.
Yeah.
And one day I was driving one of the players home, and he looked at me and he's smiling, and he's like, man, I'm in Dirk's car. And I'm looking at him, like, man, what? And he's like, I want to be just like you. I said, what do you mean? He said, man, everybody knows you got all the women. And I was like, whoop. And I literally stopped the car dead. Boom. I looked and I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, man, you got all the women, and these girls were nothing but friends. If they needed a ride, that's all it was. So people would see me or see them in my car, and all I was doing was giving them a damn ride, nothing else. But I was labeled as something else. But that goes back, and so for me, my maturity when it comes to that was already there. And it might have been because of external factors, but nonetheless, it was there. I was like, I'm not trying to do anything crazy. If I met someone, I thought they were attractive, they had a boyfriend, whatever, and they say, hey, this is all we can be. That's all it was, period. That's all it was, friendship. And I'll be there for you. So my maturity level when it comes to that was already there. But then later on in life, with the emotional part, that's what tripped me up. What Jeanette was saying, the emotional part is what tripped me up, because I think a lot of it was just kind of the frustration of not being trusted. I think for me, because I do have a lot of female friends. So I had to kind of basically shut everything down. And when you shut that down, then I'm not getting what I needed from you. So, yeah, the first person that came along, and I had, had any kind of attraction towards, it just erupted where I couldn't stop it. I wanted to. I was like, I don't want to do this because, my ex-wife will tell you, it's like, I know this dude loves me, and her, me, or whatever, but unfortunately, she wasn't there, and it stemmed because of the lack of me being able to have friends to give me what she couldn't give me.
I wasn't that mature in my early 20s.
But I get it. I get it. Because look, I hung with my boys, and
yeah,
they were doing their thing. I just wasn't into it. Not for me. It just wasn't. It was never my cup of tea.
Did you get early in your 20s, or?
Wait, I can't. My internet is kind of messing up. Say that one more time, Holly.
I said, did you get you started? Did you get married early in your 20s, or did you get married early?
Man, and that's the funny thing is I didn't get married until I was 36.
Okay, cool.
I was so afraid of losing friends, right? Because I would meet these people, and they became my friends, and I wanted to keep those relationships. I didn't want to compromise it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I never did. I'm just saying I kind of learned. It's like, oh, if you compromise, then you lose a friend. So I was like, nah, I don't want to do that again. Yeah. So I went through a couple of them where I was like, yeah, and it's like, well, I told you I'm just friends. Like, oh, okay, that's what that means. That means stop. It means stop.
Yeah.
So that's the choice. Yeah. You either do it or you don't.
So I'm just curious, I guess all of y'all can answer this, but so I think I've heard from Hallie saying that the woman had to be the one to put the guardrails or stay within the guardrails. Is that how you all feel? Because I'm just curious, is it on us? We got to be the ones that we got to make sure that.
No, I would.
So you're saying that we completely drive the relationship, whatever way it's going to be. Is that what you're saying?
No,
I'm getting from it.
No, I would say that, you should pick up on something if your mate's not there with you, you know, with regards to having, you know, female friends, or if she's very comfortable, because, you know, just as well, I mean, my mate, she has male friends, and some are married, or most of them are married. Many of them, there are some that aren't. To me, that it doesn't bother me, and then in another sense, it can't bother me because I'm the same way.
Yeah, I'm a trusting person. So for me, I was never the kind of person that was really jealous of anyone. I can honestly say that. I mean, I never questioned friendships of, you know, but then again, shit. I mean, I never had a serious relationship until my ex-wife. So I met her at 33. So for me, you know, and that's the beautiful thing about the life I was living. I was like, look, man, everyone knew where I stood. So it's like, we gonna copulate and that's all we gonna do, or we gonna be friends. So I'm not saying I was like a saint. That's not at all what I'm saying, but everybody knew where I stood. It's like, I'm your friend, we're just friends. You and I gonna kick it, we gonna kick it. And so for me, yeah, that
Didn't work.
didn't work.
So that commitment, that C word was like not in your vocabulary, huh, Dirk?
Nah, that, you know, it's funny, Regina, you say that, because now, all right, you know, Hallie, Andre, y'all gotta close your ears, man, because I'm, you know, and Charles, y'all gotta close your ears, because I'm about to go.
You're
No,
good.
Jack-
You're
Spill
good.
the tea.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Well, so I served in the military, as you guys heard me allude to, right? So in Germany, you know, I'm in Germany, and you know, like we're, you know, so you guys know we have maneuvers. You got to go out in the woods and train, right? Like, and it's dark as hell, ain't got no lights, you know. And I would look up into the sky, Regina, and pray to God and say, man, just send me that one woman. So nah, I wanted it. I didn't find it, you know, because yeah, but it's my fault because I'm a picky ass dude. So I know it's my fault.
Okay,
'Cause I'm
okay,
picky.
that's very, very, I mean, understandable. I get that.
But you know what? It's not picky in the terms of like, oh, she's got to be like a goddess or whatever. I just know what I like and I know what I don't like.
Mhm.
And so until that person comes that has everything I want, because they're not gonna be the prettiest person. They're not gonna be the smartest person. I just know what I want and I'm picky about it.
And I think that oftentimes, I mean, most people in their younger years may not have been, well, let me speak for me. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. Let me just speak for me. I was not, and now I really, really am. And so, you know, Car will say, you know, I'll roll off in a minute, because I mean, and it's not because like I'm rolling off to just be rolling off. Like I know what I like and I know what I want and I know what I don't want. No, it's not a time thing, Hallie. It has nothing to
not time in terms of age, right? But time in terms of like, I'm not gonna waste your time.
Exactly.
And I'm not gonna waste my time, right?
Absolutely
And that's
not.
because, you know, some dudes, you know, again, Hallie, you know, Andre, Charles, y'all could probably, it's like, you know, some dudes would just be like, man, I'm gonna just go with the flow just to get what I, you know, to get the physical part. Me, I was like, look, I'm trying to, and see, that's where like the conversation becomes, is like, you know, can you just be platonic friends? You can be friends, but sometimes it turns in, you know, we talked about sometimes turning into more than that. And I do believe that you have to be a friend in a relationship, whether it's a, you know, marriage or whatever. You have to be friends, man, because, you know, when all that, when all the other infatuation and all that stuff is gone, then you don't have jack. You don't have anything, right? So you're sitting there looking at each other like, I don't even like your ass because I'm your friend. You know? So now what do you have? You only got jack, right?
And
So
I think that that's what happened. A lot of that happened in the pandemic.
right.
Because
Like
you
me,
really had to, you really, like, all day, every day. You couldn't escape by going to
Right.
work. You couldn't escape, like, just for a few hours. Like, I think a lot of that happened.
right there.
Like,
Yeah.
and if you can, and I look at my parents who've been married for over almost 60 years.
Wow, congrats.
And I watch them interact. And like, is it like a whole lovey-dovey, blah, blah, blah? No, but
No.
guess what? At the end of the day, they are friends.
You're best friend.
And you know, they managed during the pandemic. Everybody was up in the house, you know, and they both are retired, even before the pandemic, when they both retired. Like, it's just, you know, so I do think that there is a lot to that underlying, Jeanette said it first too, that underlying friendship is very, very important.
I think that is the most important thing. And there are times where you have the friendship and you realize, you know, that that's all you can have. Do you know what I mean? Case in point, my ex-husband and I, we're great friends. People don't understand, right? That's all we could have. That's how we operate best as friends. And we're great friends. And, you know, and that works for us. So, you know, but that was always our strong suit in our marriage, friends, you know, so.
Right.
And
I mean, my favorite thing to do, you know, I'm giving up my cool card again, is pillow talk, man. Ain't nothing like, and I ain't talking about after you have sex, all right? I'm talking about just you in bed with your partner, you know, and you might roll in and say, you sleep? Nope. And you start talking. Next thing you know, shit, I got to get up for work, right? But you don't talk for like 3-4 hours, just talking about all kinds of stuff. That's friendship.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was gonna say, relationships and friendships are sometimes on two parallel paths. You know what I mean? Like relationships sometimes, because especially women, sometimes I feel like sometimes you guys hold on to friendships way too long when they pivot to a different phase. You know what I mean? So whereas guys, we cool with guys that we might not talk, you know, they go about their business, you know, we get another set of friends. You know, we got different pockets of friends, but we want to do different things. You know what I mean? And so even in relationships, like I said, relationships go in different phases too. You know what I mean? And so in part of that, what people experience a lot of time is sometimes you can get out of like. You know what I'm saying? And so love is tricky, but like is another, because when you get out of like, that relationship is sometimes hard to repair.
Yes, 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 again.
That's part where you want to be well. Stay out when you feel yourself like, I don't like that person, like that there's a whole nother phase that you might not be able to come back from. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%, Hallie.
I say the three L's, like, love, and lust.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt.
right, you gotta have that like part. I can still love you and not like you.
Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, gotta have that.
I know there are people where I'm like, I don't like your ass, and I'll tell them, I don't like you.
So you gotta be careful.
And they say like, well, I thought you said you love me. I'm like, yeah, I love you. I just don't like your ass.
Oh yeah.
That's why I say when Regina said that the time's up, that happens sometimes. You know what I mean? When you're dating, like, yeah.
Andre is getting ready to leave us. So
Oh, time you to go.
have any
That
closing
happens in
words?
dating. You know what I mean? Like,
Andre, you have any closing words for us? He has to drop off.
No, it's a pleasure. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me in.
Thank you for coming.
Definitely check out that podcast.
I was gonna say, put his podcast info in the chat.
Yep, I put it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting everyone. I
Yeah.
guess I'll look forward to the next time I get that call from Kara. And it's funny because you called me and I generally don't answer my phone at night.
We called him pretty late. We called him pretty late too, but we took a
But
chance.
it's only because it's Kara, and I don't know where she got that smile from. But I always tell my partner, I was like, she has this smile that just pops out of nowhere. And that's
Aw,
why
thank you,
I picked
Andre.
up.
That's so sweet. You're a
Thank
sweetheart.
you.
Thank
You guys be well.
You
You
too.
too.
You
Be well.
too.
Peace
Take
be
care.
with you.
So I heard something that triggered something in me. How late did you call, dear?
We called like 9. What was it, Jeanette?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, okay.
It
That's
might
not
have
too
been.
bad. That's
It
not
wasn't
too bad.
super late.
it wasn't
Okay.
super late, but it was kind of, I don't talk to Andre on the phone very often. So for me to pick up the phone and call him at 9 something is kind of, late. So
No, it wasn't after 11 or before 6.
it was like 9 o'clock on a Friday night too, wasn't it, Jeanette? It was Saturday.
Yeah, I don't remember what we made the calls at the same time to
Yeah.
everybody. So
We called
Okay.
everyone in a
I was
row.
gonna say, 'cause it was kind of late when y'all called me too.
yes.
After 11 and before 6, it better be emergency, Juanita.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it wasn't that late. It wasn't that
It's
late.
just a friend. That's not the kind of friend you need.
Right.
That friend
So
needs to
that better be an emergency call.
Like put it on
Somebody
speaker so we can all hear.
The only one that was early was Charles. He was on the West Coast. He was
Oh.
just getting off of work when we called, so it was early for him.
It was. I don't know. Sometimes we talk and I don't know if it's early or late,
Yeah,
but we stay on the phone for a long time.
we talk hours.
Everything and anything.
Yeah, just like friends do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome to have a friend like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, Cara, yeah, Andre's the bomb. So yeah, you about to lose another friend.
You ready to lose another friend?
Oh, you're talking about my Andre. You're talking
Yes.
about my husband. Yeah, I thought about that when I said that. He talks to Dirk now more than I talk to Dirk, which is crazy. I'm like, another friend he stole?
Yep.
Dang.
Well, Andre say that you stole me.
Right. He says I stole.
He
Ricky.
says that all the time because I was friends with Andre. I really wasn't friends with Andre first, but he claims that. You know what I mean? Because I've known Carr for long. I knew Carr.
Our families have known each other since before I
for
was
like a
born.
long time. But Andre claims me, he'll get mad. Like if I don't.
He's not here to defend himself, man.
I know, but he's listening.
It's all good. We're all friends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I
been a
love
blessing
Dre,
for me that my
But-
husband has embraced my male friends and they've become his friends, and same with him. His female friends like Regina, we've become dear friends. So it's been a blessing in our relationship. So it's
And
all
Dre-
good.
And Dre's always telling Cara, stop trying to hook Charles up. What are you doing?
Yes, he
Yes.
is. He's always like, leave him alone. Stop trying to hook him up. He does say that to me all of the time. He's always looking out for his boy. But I don't listen.
No, you don't.
You never have.
I'm like, oh yeah. So, but that's a different show. That's another show. This is about platonic friends. We're not talking about hookups on this show. You missed that show. That was dating. Check it out a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that was dating. That's true.
Sorry, I missed that.
Did I miss that one?
No, you came on at the end.
In the
And
end,
you came
right.
So how come I didn't get hooked up?
That show, one of the main things that we talked
This is
about
about
was dating
platonic friends. We're gonna
Came at
come
the
back
end,
to
Derek.
debate and discussion another
Oh
time.
my gosh, we're gonna have the whole hookup, matchmaking, dating. We're gonna go there.
We'll be
Jeanette
back to
already
that.
got that. Jeanette got that under wraps right now. She got that.
I
On
know she does.
Yeah.
But for now, does anyone else have any comments about platonic friends?
I know, like
Charles, you have anything else you want to say about platonic friends?
I mean, you know, just a lot about what you already said. You know, I try to make sure that my platonic friends, you know, significant others feel very comfortable, and I try to be very respectful of their relationship. You know what I mean? Even though, like I said, they may be giving me something, you know, for me spiritually, whatever, but I still try to be respectful of their marriage or friend or relationship, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Because I do cherish the friendship, you know, and that comes along with being respecting her relationship. So.
Charles, we appreciate you getting off a plane and joining us. That's like epic.
Tired.
Look. That's that car smile.
Yeah, she did text
And
me.
friendship.
Say, "Are you coming?" I said, "Oh God, let me get on." I would never hear the end of it. So anyway.
He didn't want to hear that. He didn't want to hear my mouth.
Well, that's a good friend.
That's a good friend.
Yeah.
He didn't let you down.
Dear friend, yes. Hallie, you have anything else you want to share?
I think I touched on it. You know what I mean? Just you got to keep those guardrails up. You know what I mean? And stay away from that deception space. You know what I mean? We all people fall into that, but you gotta be straightforward. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to hurt someone's feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you feel a different way about them.
Yeah, the guardrails was a good point.
Yeah.
And Dirk, anything else
I'm good.
about platonic friends?
Rest in peace, X. That's all I gotta say. That was my man. That was my man.
Oh my goodness. Well, what about any of our good girlfriends? Do you have anything else you want to share about platonic friends? No?
I'm just glad that we had the conversation, and
Yeah.
know that that there are those of us and a lot of folks out there, really, I think, who value each other's friendship as individuals, you know, and as people, and have learned how to maneuver and manage and really appreciate each other for what you bring to your relationship. So it was really nice to hear from the good guys, or the good brothers, in terms of you know, even their connections. So thank you for sharing.
All right.
I like that. We're gonna call them the good guys. They'll still be 3 G's, like we're good girlfriends. They're good guys. So I like that. I like good guy friends.
Yes.
I'm
So
trying to get that Dirk VIP status. So
Yeah, VIP.
Me, say hi to my daughter.
Hi, Parker.
Hi.
Guys tonight.
Good. How are you?
Good. You guys all look so wonderful.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh, thank you.
I love Parker. She's
She's beautiful.
She's a freshman at FAMU.
Oh, wonderful.
She's supposed to be a Spelman, but
No, she's supposed to be a FAMU.
where she's supposed to be.
Spelman. That's my alma mater, essentially, not effectively.
Essentially.
We do need to wrap this up.
That is one college that has not converted like Poly. It has not converted.
It's his sister
We're starting
school.
another
It's his
topic.
your sister school.
Oh, okay. You went to Morehouse.
Yeah, he went to
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, I got it. I knew that that's what you meant, but I
That's
was
not what you
like,
said, right?
I was worded.
But I got my son at Morehouse, so I got one.
There you go.
oh, okay.
There you go. Well, I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. First of all, that was very brave of you.
Yes, it was.
Come
It
and join us
was.
in our virtual living room. So I appreciate you. And as I started, each of you know how much I appreciate your friendship. So
No
I
doubt.
want you to know
Same
that I
here.
love you and that I'm so thankful that you're in my life, and you each have been such a blessing to me. And I just really thank you for coming tonight and sharing and being open and honest too. So thank you. And Hallie, please thank your wife for allowing you to be here with us tonight, and tell her that we would love for her to join us on our Good Girlfriends show anytime. So she's always welcome to come. We'd love for her to join us, but thank her for allowing you to be here with us tonight. And Charles, I hope you get some rest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But thank you for taking the time out to be here. And Dirk, Thank you for just always being here for us. You will be back, I'm sure. We'll invite you back. All of you are invited back, but I'm sure Dirk will be back in his VIP seat again very soon.
You know, we get that CBC party, so make sure all them come on down. We do a live broadcast.
I know, that'll be fun. We'll have to take the Good Girlfriends on the road.
Yeah.
Next time they have it. So, well, thank you all. We're about to, so guys, if you will stay on for a few more minutes, just so we can thank you off the Facebook Live. I'm getting ready to turn it off, but we just want to thank everyone for tuning in to our Good Girlfriends chat. We will see you again next week. Next week, we have a financial topic because April is Financial Literacy Month. So we'll have a financial topic next week. But in the meantime, we hope we've been a blessing to someone, and we hope you all have a blessed week. And don't forget to tell everyone you love that you love them. All right, have a wonderful week.